And we'll get going. So good morning, everyone. Welcome to another AGDN meeting. I hope you all have had wonderful summers. We took a little hiatus over the summer, and I was telling Mark, I kind of missed it. I realized how much of a routine I'd gotten into, and though I enjoyed the break, I definitely missed coming together with you all and catching up. So I'm really grateful that we're able to regroup and come together again and see all your faces on my screen. So we have a little bit of an agenda today. We're gonna welcome I guess speaker Kelly. She's gonna tell us about her organization and the work that they do here in the Valley. And then we're gonna jump into our regular updates just to see how everyone's doing, what we've been up to over the summer, any new collaborations happening, things like that. And then Danny is gonna close us out with a presentation on the SDGs and how we're going to kind of relaunch into that work next month. Sound good? Cool. Well, without further ado, Kelly Geisler, sorry, from Cultivate Goodness. I'll hand it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you. Had a little trouble getting on here. So I'm actually on my phone, which is not ideal, but we're just going to roll with it. So that's fine. So I'm Kelly Geisler. I am the founder of an organization called Cultivate Goodness. We're a fairly new organization. We started almost to our 2-year mark. So it started just at the tail end of 2019. We had our grand opening the end of February 2020, and had this goal of gathering people together to do some good, which in a few weeks, the whole world changed, and that quickly changed for us as well. So our focus is on fulfilling needs in the community, as well as getting members of our community involved in being aware of opportunities that are out there for them to do good, as well as, putting in their piece and just joining in on community projects. So we offer a wide variety of different opportunities, from gathering in person. We'll take groups of people to volunteer places. Many of them are unaware of where they can go. And we offer a lot to do from home, whether it's with their group or their family. We have businesses that have done it in their, for team building, as well as, church or youth groups that have gotten together to, do some projects for us. So that has been great. But we have taken groups to feed at homeless shelters. We've packed food at food banks. We have weekly meals that go into a domestic violence shelter in Mesa and have a sign up for that. That's a very popular opportunity. And then we do a lot, for our seniors who, especially during COVID times, were so isolated. So we provided a lot, whether it be cards or holiday decorations, treats, whatever we could do to make sure that they knew that we were thinking of them and they were not forgotten. So, and this also provided an opportunity for people in the community to come together and to be able to do some good, especially, during 2020 when we needed it so badly. They needed it and we needed it. So that's pretty much what Cultivate Goodness is. We are a volunteer-based organization, and our focus is on local needs within our community. Does anyone have any questions for me?
Well, I'm going to invite Kelly to stick around while we do some of our member updates. And as we go around, we can say, the organization that we represent, and maybe include some opportunities that include some volunteer work. And maybe that's a way that we could plug into each other. Because all the organizations here have an international focus, but we do have staff base in Arizona and other potential opportunities to get involved here. So I think it'd be good for all of us to be aware of those overlaps, right?
Great. Yes, absolutely.
Awesome. Kathleen, do you want to get us started?
Sure. Well, I'm back down here in Rock Creek. It's been really challenging, as it has been in the States in terms of education, figuring out whether kids are going back to school in person or remotely. And basically what's happened in this community is mirroring pretty closely. And I think I shared that article that NPR had done, the Frontera Desk had done about in Sonora. I think it was 13% of the kids only have returned to school in person, even though, quote, school has started again, and they've announced it's officially, the president of Mexico federally mandated schools will reopen in person. But what that's looked like for us here in this community, and it sounds like in most of Sonora, one of the things that's been a real challenge is all of these public schools have been sitting vacant for a year and a half now, and nobody's been maintaining them. They have broken windows, they've been vandalized, they've had plumbing stolen out of them. Many of them are not functional. I think less than half of the public schools were even able to open just because of operationally, functionally, they couldn't, the buildings were just a mess. So they asked the parents, basically told the parents, you have to come and donate supplies and time and fix it up if you want the school to reopen, which of course, families that we serve, that's a real challenge for them. So some of the kids, when the schools that were able to reopen, there will be anywhere from 3 to 5 kids in a classroom on a given day that show up. There's a lot of fear. The Delta virus is surging here just as it is in the States, and there's concerns about young people. There are a few young people under the age of 13 in ICU here from the community. So that's got people very afraid to send their kids. So it's literally daily. Met with the team yesterday afternoon, just like it is in the States. Okay, wait, so many kids at this school are quarantined, so this district is going back to remote for right now. And so it's really, each school, each neighborhood here is different, but for the most part, what we're as of yesterday afternoon, meeting with the team, where they have landed is, we're going to basically function like a school for right now. We're going to assume that for most of these kids, we're not supplementing, which is our typical function, supplementing what they're getting in the public school in their half-day attendance in the public school. And then we have them for 3.5 hours and are really enhancing and supplementing and enriching what the school is offering them. We're it for many of these kids. So we're shifting and doing a lot of just basic learning, taking each kid where they are and trying to move them forward. The other thing that's been interesting that we landed on yesterday, we have a woman, Mariana, who's a dancer and does physical movement and dance and is very skilled and trained. She's not just a dancer, she's trained in almost dance therapy. And she's coming to all of the clubs and doing a lot of just movement and fun and dance. And the team is realizing that that's a really important role we're playing now too. It's been a long, difficult year and a half for these families and these kids, a lot of stress on their families. And so the team is really looking at, yes, we want to make sure we're moving these kids forward academically or keeping them connected or having them, making sure they're as ready as possible for whenever we get back to some semblance of a normal school situation in person. But also just kind of bringing some joy, some stability, a place. They're doing meals again, trying to do some real fun activities, just almost like a Boys and Girls Club model where it's not so focused on education. That's an important piece of it, but really realizing the importance of just having a place the kids can come, relax, forget about things for a while, have some fun, be in a safe place with adults that, are there to just be there for them every day. So it could look a lot different when I come down next week. We'll see, taking it day by day.
All right. Thank you for sharing, Kathleen. And if you could tell us the name of your organization and do kind of like a brief overview of in regular times.
Yes, our U.S. nonprofit is Steps of Love for now. And we support our primary mission. The only focus that we have is supporting a Mexican nonprofit in Puerto Peñasco, Mexico, that the primary mission of the Mexican nonprofit is providing kids with a path out of poverty through access to education. So we help kids go to school and then provide them the resources they need to not just go to school, but succeed. We follow them throughout the school year.
Wonderful, thank you. Paul?
Right, so I might pass this off to Danny for more updates on 33 buckets. Because on my end as a board member, so I've mainly over the summer been mainly been working my day job at ASU, and I've been involved kind of on the high level, but I'm sure Danny could give a little more detail on all the projects we've been working on in Peru.
Sure. So my name is Danny. I think I met both of you guys, or all of you guys, but just for a little bit of context for those that I haven't, I'm the executive director of 33 Buckets. We're an Arizona-based, fairly young nonprofit as well, working primarily in the Cusco region of Peru at this point in time. And we work with small underserved communities to create more long-term sustainable access to clean water in those communities. So this summer, I spent about 4 months on the ground in Cusco, which was a really great experience, starting to develop a new relationship with a municipality down there that's home to about 9 different communities, a little bit over 2,200 individuals. And we've been really working with them to figure out the best model for us kind of moving forward as we grow, and what are the best ways and solutions that we can offer to pursue and achieve our mission of creating long-term access to clean water in these communities. So, we've taken many pivots since the beginning of the pandemic, like everybody. One of those is trying to figure out if there's a way that we can kind of custom design and custom or collaborate with these communities individually to deliver a water treatment system or a methodology of managing their water that's even more sustainable, more engaging and empowering than even our previous solutions. And so we spent a lot of time this summer working really closely with those municipality leaders, local water managers in those communities, getting their feedback on work that we've done in the past and applying that to our approach moving forward. So we're back in the States now and kind of regrouping, continuing to collect feedback from our partners on the work that we did this summer, and then starting to try some new ideas for ways to both fundraise and engage with our donors. We're trying our first kind of formal in-person event this December, and we kind of hope everything is primed for that. We're going the route of trying like an auction-based event where we're working with local artists who are willing to contribute some of their work to auction off for the purpose of our clean water initiatives. So spending a lot of time on that, and people always say that putting on an in-person event is a lot of work. So we started early and we're still kind of making strides in that area, and we think it'll be worth it for us and kind of a really good way to re-engage our donors, especially the ones that have been with us for a long time, continued or even increased their support during the pandemic. So not only looking at how we can provide more value to the people that we serve on the ground in our communities, but also taking a look at how we can provide better value for our supporters here in the States and even here in Arizona with our in-person event. So it's an exciting time, and we're trying to make the most of kind of being back in the States and providing an opportunity for our donors to connect better with the work that we do. So super excited that we're kind of restarting these meetings, and I've expressed to Anna before, for us as a young organization, how much it's really helped us and given us sparked ideas and given us confidence to kind of grow what we're doing.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Danny. And also, I just wanted to give a quick shout out. This summer, part of the work that we did behind the scenes was trying to get a committee together so that I can share some of the responsibility of running this group and bringing in a little bit more energy and different ideas. And Danny jumped at the opportunity, so he's been super helpful in kind of helping share the responsibility, and we're really excited about what we can do now that it's a group and not just a single person. You know, we hope that it's gonna bring a wealth of ideas and new initiatives and things for us to get involved in. So thank you, Danny. I really appreciate it. Clint.
I think most of you know, I'm Clint with Feed My Starving Children. Yeah, I mean, I love hearing the updates from you guys. I think like all of us, it's just been a really crazy learning, growing, changing season. You know, latest updates for us is we just continue to kind of fight that battle on the front end of how do we get people engaged and volunteer, which has gone well for us. You know, we have capacity limits at all of our sites nationally. But in an effort to try and get a few more meals packed, we are opening that up to 5 sessions instead of 4 sessions a day. So we'll get a few more people in, continue to get more people packing. We actually officially opened up our own machine-based packing facility in Minnesota as well, amongst using partners. So that has gone well, but that's officially up and running now. And then I know I shared at the beginning of this call, excuse me, we have made the commitment to, you know, we had a goal of 370 million meals, and we've made the decision to push forward to getting that 390 at this point. So that's been a huge jump for us. But just, and again, Danielle, I totally get that. We're stuck in the middle of this in-person event / virtual event. How do we do this? How do we transition? And what's going to work? So we're still kind of getting back into that process now, as well as what does that look like and how do we make that transition? So love that we get to share those things, because as I say, I love stealing everybody else's ideas, or at least stealing them, because I had no ideas at that point. So it always helps in the long run. So I don't know, that's about the biggest update from us.
Thank you, Clint. Mark, Kelly, I don't know how you want to split it up amongst yourselves.
I'll let Kelly go first here. And then...
You know, like you guys have all mentioned, it's been a crazy year, but, you know, we've been really blessed that we have an NGO set up and we have ministry partners in country, because we've been really able to continue all of our work. So the only thing that, so Hope for Kids for Kelly is, and we're an organization that provides different ways to help children and families break the cycle of poverty. So we have, we do clean water wells in Uganda, India, Nepal, and the Philippines. And we have a pretty large water program where we've drilled about 865 wells now. Is that right, Mark?
Yeah, close enough.
It's daily increasing, but and you know, what sets Hope for Kids apart on the water drilling wells is that all of our wells are functioning. We have a really complex system set up to make sure that they remain functioning, that there's some ownership from the local communities to keep the water running, and repairs made and all those kind of things. And so we're really building a foundation that of ways to support more and more communities to get clean water. And then that kind of flows into, once we provide clean water in the community, what are the next steps? And so we have a child sponsorship division. We sponsor about 3,000 kids worldwide. And in 7 different countries we work. And so those kids not only now are receiving the basic health benefits, but now they're also getting to go to school and things like that. Child sponsorship has looked interesting in COVID because, again, as Kathleen mentioned, the kids really aren't back in school fully. So what we've been doing is using our sponsorship funds to support them with additional food, because we've seen inflation worldwide and shortages, just like we've had here in the US. And so that seems to be one of the critical things to keep the kids fed. The other thing that we've been doing is providing resources like packets for them to do learning at home. It looks a little different in every country. Like in the Philippines, they have enough technology that, our kids in our program just don't have the means to do the technology. So we provided them with technology. In Uganda, they don't, it looked more like radio lessons and home education packets. And then at some time during the middle of the pandemic, all the lockdowns, we shifted to even actually paying teachers, because they were working in schools where if they don't get school fees, the teachers aren't making any money. So we have a network of teachers that we're kind of giving stipends to continue teaching the kids in our program on a one-on-one or small cluster basis. So that's been continuing. Hope for Kids also has a vocational school in Uganda, and we've been able to keep that going with projects where they're not gathered at the school, but they're actually out working in the sites. So that's been encouraging, because, again, those are the most vulnerable kids that we're trying to reach. And then the other piece that we have is we work in an adoptive village, and that's sort of where my wheelhouse. I work in projects, and we do, we're building whole communities with medical clinics, schools, community centers, and providing just that holistic approach to helping them break that cycle. One thing that I thought about, Kelly, is in a normal year, we have teams that go and we travel to these countries, but and those are the opportunities to have local volunteers do some hygiene kits for us. We have a group that sews little backpacks that we can provide to all the kids when we go. There's kind of, I think we're on, Mark, what's that network that we have where we have the projects posted?
Yeah, I don't have that.
I need to look at it, but there's a resource where you can go and check. I'll look it up after and put it in the notes, but you can check on there to see what kind of projects are needed. And those are some of the things that we post for people in the local community to help out. So is there anything I forgot? Mark, do you want to finish?
Yeah, I think the other thing, and you just started to share about our restriction of travel, also meant that one of our ways to raise money for water was our Walk for Water events, and those were all canceled. And then our speaking engagements, usually there's a dozen or more of those a year, were all canceled. So, a large impact. And we really, at the beginning of all this, thought there was going to be a huge hit to our donors, that our sponsors would quit, our large donors would decide not to do anything, and really that's not been the case at all. So our events are starting to come back, our speaking events. We now are booking in 2022, and those are pretty much coming back to where they were. And our Walk for Waters are just starting. We've done just a few of those. We got one next weekend, or this coming weekend, in Wisconsin, and then another one in Orange County coming up. So just starting to open up. All of these events we're creating as hybrid. So we're offering the opportunity. We did a large virtual event called Walking Alone Together, and that was our first national event. We had 500 people around the country participate. And so all of these, we have a hybrid blend to virtual and real, so that if people still aren't comfortable gathering together, or if they want to participate a distance away, they don't have to travel or anything to be there. So we do feel really blessed this year financially. It's been okay, and we're just thankful for that. Part of it goes to Kelly, has really got some big projects that some significant donors have decided, hey, in the midst of all of this, I want to help develop a village. And that's a big piece of part of our financial stability. And our wells were ahead of last year in our water wells. So we had about a 2-month hiatus in drilling, But this year looks like it's gonna top what we did last year as far as water wells. So lots of things to be thankful for, and we're all anxious to get back to whatever normal is, right?
That's great to hear that even though it's been challenging and you've had to make a lot of changes and adjustments, you've still had a good year so far and can
Yep.
sustain programming, right? Different programming, but sustaining it.
Yep.
Great, thank you. Betty from Hope Arising.
Hello everybody, my name is Betty. Let me turn on my video. Hi. So I am originally from Ethiopia. I've been in the US for a few years. It might be hard for me to explain, some things, but Chantal was the one who attended the meeting all the time. And she emailed me yesterday and she told me just to attend the meetings. So I'm just learning from you guys. So I think maybe she already explained about Hope Rising. I'm also one of the founder of Hope Rising. So before the pandemic, we used to have like 4 to 5 travel teams, medical teams. And after the pandemic, we canceled everything, and our beneficiaries affected a lot on that because that was our huge the donation comes from there most of the time, and we canceled most of our fundraising programs in our dental office and in eye doctor's office in Arizona and also in Utah. So right now we have a plan to travel to Ethiopia in 4 weeks because schools are not open yet in Ethiopia. Most of the places, they don't have internet, they don't have online school access. So most of the kids in Ethiopia are out of school after the pandemic. They started 3 or 2 times a week a few months ago, but now the COVID is hitting really hard in Ethiopia right now. So they are planning to open soon. So we are taking this a server that they can download books from there without the internet. So that's our plan. In 4 weeks, we are taking maybe between 15 to 20 servers over there and give it to the schools. And they can, I think one server can connect, I think 50 or 30 phones or iPads, whatever they have, they will connect and they can at least read some books. So we are also making some small fundraising here in America. I'm living in Utah and Chantal is living in Arizona. So I'm just here just to learn from you guys. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. I'm so glad that you could join us. It's really great to meet you, and I'm glad that Chantal kind of looped you into this.
Yeah, thanks.
It's great to see how you guys have, had to adjust over the last year or so, because I didn't know. I mean, I knew a little bit about like your regular programming, but post-pandemic. So it's interesting to see how you guys are adjusting.
Yeah, thank you.
And if you'll send me, if you want to be included on the invitations directly, you could just send me your email address and I can
Sure,
include
yeah.
you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Betty. And I guess I can do a little update on behalf of Esperanza. It's been a busy time. The summer has been nonstop. We are kind of in a radical growth mode right now, which is kind of going against everything that is assumed with the pandemic, but it's very exciting. We're growing our domestic program, which focuses on health education, nutrition, oral health. We're growing a program that started during the pandemic, which is stove to table cooking hot meals for seniors in HUD housing. That's getting kind of settled into more of an actual program, not just a pilot. So that's a pretty big deal. And then internationally, we have been doing medical brigades, primary care brigades in Nicaragua for about 3 years now. We're growing that program a little bit more, and we're also thinking of expanding that into a pilot in Peru, which is really exciting because, of course, because of all the pandemic and the travel issues, we haven't been able to travel with our surgical teams. And in Peru, especially, the hospital's system has just crashed. People aren't getting regular care. They're really only opening their doors for COVID cases. So if you just think about all those people that aren't getting care for also like pretty important health issues, it's just going to get that much worse. So to us, it's like, well, what can we do if we can't send surgical teams? Maybe we can help a little bit with primary care. So lots of big things happening there. And since we have been talking a little bit about development, I wanted to say that we just had our Hope Breakfast yesterday, which is our big annual fundraiser. It seems like we did pretty good. Last time I checked, we didn't meet our goal of $205,000, but I think we got pretty close, which, considering the environment, we're really grateful for it. But I'm gonna volunteer up our development team because last year we did a completely virtual event. This year we did a hybrid event. So we streamed it online, but we had maybe like 30 people in person, which was just staff, board members, and sponsors. So Daniel, Paul, if you have any questions or want to pick anyone's brain, I'm going to volunteer our development team because I think they really did knock it out of the park. Found a good balance of making sure that people in person had a good experience, people online had a good experience. And yeah, it's a lot of work. They had some really, really long nights, but I think it all paid off. So just going to put that out there if you all are interested. What else have we been up to? We're also kind of in the midst of a rebranding process, learning more about ourselves, learning more about how we can communicate what we do, not just to our current donors, but also to a growing younger generation. A lot of Esperanza's support at the moment comes from people that were brought on and started as donors many, many years ago. A lot of them now are aging and passing, unfortunately. And we're at that kind of crux where we're trying to figure out, okay, well, how do we gain new donors in this younger, like, millennial demographic? So that's been really interesting because it's been very introspective. Who are we? How do we communicate who we are? We kind of have our hands in a lot of pots, and to us it makes sense, but maybe to the outside world it's not as clear. So it's been a really interesting process, a lot of hard work there too, but it's been really good. So yeah, I think that's it for us. Kelly, I wonder if you have any questions or any insights from what you heard around the screen.
No, I think what you guys are doing is absolutely amazing, and super impressed with all of that. And I think as we do figure out what our new normal is, whenever that happens, maybe this is it. I don't know. Maybe there'd be an opportunity for Cultivate Goodness to be able to assist and provide some aid and, get some volunteers to be able to do something. So, but yeah, this is great. And I did want to say one volunteer place that I am able to post a lot of opportunities on is justserve.org. That has been huge for me. I've gotten a lot of great support from using that. So I don't know, Kelly, if that's what you were talking about, but that has been amazing for our organization.
Great, thank you. Well, we'll stay in touch. I can share your information out with the rest of the members and make sure that we stay connected. Once it all comes to fruition, we'll figure it out for sure.
Great.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions right now based on what we've shared?
I have a question for Kelly Pierce. You had mentioned that you have a vocational program, I believe, in Uganda that has continued to operate during the pandemic, maybe in a little modified fashion. Is there someone that you might be able to put me in touch with? We're really interested in developing a vocational program here. Our focus has always been in Rocky Point on traditional education, getting the kids at least through high school. But right now, the only track we offer them after high school is college. And we'd really like to develop a vocational program where after high school, they could have the different trades, learn a trade, learn, some other kind of educational opportunity that will help them earn a better living. Is Kelly there?
Kelly Pierce. Kelly, did you hear?
My video is not working. But...
Sorry, I had somebody asking me a question. Could you repeat the question? I apologize.
No, that's okay. I was when you mentioned in your discussion that you have a vocational program that's continuing to operate during COVID, maybe modified, and we're really interested in developing a vocational program here to enhance the opportunities that we provide for our high school graduates. Right now, we only offer them the opportunity to go to college. So I was wondering if there's anyone I might be able to pick their brain about developing a vocational program, what that might look like.
We are actually in the process of doing all that. We have just been following the Ugandan standards. So that's sort of our guideline. One thing that you may look at, are you looking for it to be a certified program through the government or just a skills program at any level?
Skills program, an alternative, as I said, to college, where like if we could have, we envision maybe some sort of an apprenticeship program where we have local tradespeople that take a student. We have maybe a vocational center where they can learn some of the skills, and we have some of the tools, whether it's woodworking, carpentry, plumbing, electrical, tile work, whatever, and then maybe connect with local business people and do some sort of an apprenticeship, but nothing, super formal.
There's a lot. I would start with maybe looking at the Mexican government standards, though, because that kind of gives you a basis for how they do the curriculum and run the programming. We haven't quite gotten to that phase where we're placing them for jobs, but as you're talking, we've been talking internally about what do we do with those kids that reached 7th grade, took their exams in Uganda, that were ready to go to school at the next level, but haven't had school for 2 years. So now we're basically losing that 7th grade age group to basically not being in school. We're losing them to pregnancy, we're losing them to different things because they're basically hanging around for 2 years. And so we had actually talked about trying to go to certain businesses like mechanics and hairdressing and get the kids placed. But it's as we're talking, we're pivoting on the fly for that type of program because we don't want to lose those kids, but we know when school starts back up, because Uganda said they're not opening. So, those kids now will have been out of school for a full 2 years. So I don't, we could talk offline and just kind of, I could share more about how we've been discussing that. It is sort of learning as we go. So I don't have a real clear path for you.
I think one other lesson we learned in a lot of our work in country is that we listen to our folks in country. And so many times the ideas of what we think vocational schools should be or what anything should be is totally different in the country we're working in. So we really count on the people on the ground helping us navigate these new areas that we're learning and helping us make it work, because our US ideas about most things are not going to fit, for the people that need to learn a skill there. And so we really do count on our people in country to help us with that.
Kathleen, do you have a strong team of locals?
Sorry, I should have clarified. I'm wearing my Aim Penasco hat. I'm the founder of the program here, and I'm the only American involved, so I don't run it. But I was asking, I had this meeting with my team yesterday here. They're all locals, and they're struggling. Well, not struggling. they were like, well, do you know of any other people that have started a program like this? It's interesting you say, Kelly, this is always, not always, but this has been something that the team here has wanted to add, but it was just kind of on the list of things in the future we want to do. But now a much more of an urgency from my team here, because we're losing kids. Just like you said, there's kids that were freshmen, sophomore in high school that now their parents are saying, we're kind of, the team was frustrated yesterday saying we're kind of battling parents because they're going, what's the point? They just should go to work. You know, they've already been out. It's going to be 2 years now. What's the point? They're going to graduate from high school at 20. No, they should just go to work. So there's more of an urgency, it seems, from the team here to say, can you help us get something started sooner rather than later? Even if it's not formal, let's start sending some of these, like you said, maybe it's just getting local business people to train on the job, you know, kids. If they're just going to go to work, maybe at least we can help them find something that fits with their aptitudes, their passion, you know, a little bit of mentoring, coaching from our team here, and the teachers and the psychologists and social worker, just the team here can maybe, you know, help in that process. But yeah, there's definitely seems from the local team to be more of an urgency, because they're really, really upset about the number of kids that are looking at just giving up on education.
We started with 2, is that correct, Kelly? Seamstress and construction, was that really the 2 that we started with? And in our startup, we got the sewing machines, and so already, you know, we have lots of uniforms for kids that we need every year, so that'll play into the need that we have in helping kids with uniforms for school. And construction, the guys are out doing projects with us right now, so you know, it's not purely vocational, but it also blends together well with what we're doing, and able to provide, you know, to ask a third-party business to bring in a child to teach. You know, we're kind of doing both. Our guy that leads our construction is really welcoming these kids to come in and help with some of these projects. So they're learning on the job really at the same time.
Got it. Yeah, I think that's going to be the key, is just start somewhere. Go look to our local community here, have the team reach out and you know, start small and start kind of grassroots and see, you know, without trying to organize. They want to, I think, have these thoughts of, you know, we have to go big or go home. And I think we can start really simple and small and grassroots and connect, you know, individual kids with individual community members, and maybe, and then while working on a long-term, you know, and possibly find some funding and some grant money for a more formal.
Yeah, I'd be happy to
with a
brainstorm with, so
center.
I'll send you my email address and we can connect that way.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I love seeing the collaboration just happen spontaneously. Awesome. Any other questions, comments on anything that was shared? If not, then I think I'm going to hand it over to Danny so he can go into our presentation.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see if I've got screen sharing abilities here. All right, you guys got my presentation up on the screen? Yes.
I see it.
Okay, great. So this presentation is something that Anna and I wanted to go over briefly, talk a little bit about the Sustainable Development Goals. Towards the beginning of this summer, we started to implement the Sustainable Development Goal series, where we try to get the members of the AGDN group to align themselves with one or more of these goals and kind of educate everyone else on what that is, how your organization fits in there. So I'm by no means an expert on the SDGs, and I'm certain there are some of you that may have further insights than I was able to uncover. So feel free to please, provide your input or questions. I basically just used a few resources I found online to what I think of is kind of demystifying the SDGs, because they're this big global vision, and it's something where how can it actually be useful for us as organizations, and what's our role in that? So it should be a pretty brief presentation. Just kind of wanted to start off with, let's see here, what the goals actually are. So this is a plan that was set in place by the United Nations. The 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development is the formal name. And that was in 2015. They set 17 different goals, broad categories with 169 targets within those 17 goals. And those targets are quantifiable metrics that we can ideally track on a global scale, and kind of understand where we're at in this development process, kind of as a collective. And so you can see the different goals up here. You're probably familiar with at least a handful of them, but just to kind of run by everyone what they actually are. There's no poverty, zero hunger, health and well-being, access to education, gender equality, clean water and sanitation, affordable and clean energy, decent work and economic growth, industry, innovation and infrastructure, reduced inequalities, sustainable cities and communities, responsible consumption and production, climate action, life below water, life on land, peace, justice, and strong institutions, and partnerships for those goals. So a lot of these are very broad categories. I think most organizations fall within at least one or more to some extent. And so these are what the UN and that group decided this is the best way to kind of generalize these different development areas to ultimately reduce poverty and empower and enable communities to achieve a higher quality of life. So what are the SDGs? And this is something I pulled straight from the webpage that I thought did a good job of kind of summarizing. It's more or less an urgent call for action by all countries. And that's kind of the purpose of the UN and what this plan is, and creating some sort of global partnership and recognizing that the end to poverty isn't just one of these categories, but all of them, and keeping in mind how they relate to each other and how one feeds into the other is a very important part of that. And so that's really what the SDGs are about, and what the United Nations is trying to accomplish. So what are some of the key elements of the SDG framework? And some of those are unification, right, of a global vision. So a way that we can kind of come together and say, this is the future that we're moving towards, that we would like to achieve. And these are the different areas that we need to make progress in to achieve that. With the targets they provide, like I mentioned, it gives an opportunity for quantified impact tracking, something that creates consistency across all countries and sectors and organizations, that allows us to better track the impact that we're having and judge that against a benchmark of where we would like to be and where we've come from. The next is distribution of reliable information. At this point in time, the UN and the SDGs have been kind of used as buzzwords and something that people talk a lot about with some level of trust in those organizations. And so another responsibility I think that the UN and the SDGs have assumed is, how do we actually communicate to the whole world? What are the problems? What are the reality of those problems that we're facing? And what are we doing as a collective to address those things? And so I wanted to cover a little bit, why should you care, basically? Why should your organization try to align with one or more of these goals? And how does that help your organization and the people you serve? So I looked through a pretty high quality paper that was done on exactly that. And they came up with really 6 different benefits to us as NGOs and social sector organizations that you can see on the left. A universal and integrated agenda, a tool for advocacy, an opportunity for creating new partnerships and coalitions based on these SDGs, an opportunity to influence the political sphere that will have a difference in the work that you're doing, the capacity of your organization, an opportunity for potential funding sources that may have not been there before, or maybe it provides your organization kind of some leverage and increased level of attractiveness to certain funders, and an opportunity to protect the political space for NGOs and allowing us to operate in the way that we can have the greatest impact. And they provided a lot of great examples. I provided all these resources in the last slide, and I can share this slide deck with you guys if you're interested in taking a deeper dive. But there's really great case studies on how NGOs who have mobilized around certain SDGs have really benefited from that from an organizational standpoint. So next, what are the roles of organizations like ours in the SDGs? You know, how can we kind of embody those? And I think this was very interesting for me because previously when I thought about the SDGs, it's, well, you know, if you're doing those projects and you're actually working to directly address those impact metrics that the UN set, that's really the main way, right? So implementing projects. But they provided a really great argument for NGO's role in holding both the private sector and the public sector, the government, to account on a lot of these things, and kind of saying, you know, hey, this is our global vision that we're working towards. This is what our organization is doing. This is how your sector or your organization is preventing us from doing that, or maybe contributing to it as well. And another category that they mentioned is communicating these SDGs. So when organizations like ours take a look at this and say, hey, this is how we align with it, this is what we're doing to address these issues in whatever area or group of SDGs you fall under, and further communicating that to your network of donors and the people you serve, and kind of displaying a unification around these ideas, and kind of in solidarity with many other organizations around the world. I also thought it was interesting, this quote here on the left that says, these roles really depend on the type of NGO. And it's very possible for an NGO to play several of these roles. And at times, you know, there may be tension between those. So I think being aware of the SDGs and how your organization fits into those can help you maybe address some of that tension before it comes up, and maybe turn it into leverage for you and the people that you serve. So finally, you know, how does this relate to our group, the Arizona Global Development Network? Why are we giving this any time and energy? What's the point for us as a group? And I think there's a handful of reasons, but we kind of narrowed it down just to a few. You know, we're a very diverse group in that many of us are working on different types of projects, but many of which overlap in a handful of these different areas. And so being able to report our impact collectively in a consistent manner, I think is very valuable, and something that, you know, is attractive to funders, attractive to people interested in organizations, interested in joining the organization, and kind of quantifying the value of our coalition and the individual work that we're doing. Growing awareness about international development in general in Arizona. I think that's probably one of the main functions and main purposes of this group. And so being able to align ourselves with a global vision, something that many people are aware of and support of across the world, this provides an opportunity for us to do that. Lastly, creating a common ground, both for all of us to talk about our work and collaborate on new ideas that can help us address some of these goals, and connect us with other statewide organizations, you know, maybe government-based organizations or private sector organizations that are focusing on, you know, pooling resources into any one of these areas, and aligning with these, we kind of open up some doors for the group as a whole, and networking and opportunities for increased resources for everyone. So to provide a little bit of like context and how 33 Buckets has seen this play out, and maybe some of the actual on the ground impact, which is what we all really care about the most. This is a picture on the right from one of our communities in Cusco that worked with another NGO called the Green Program to educate about these different goals, kind of in the same way we're doing here, but tailored towards the school children. And they've painted this beautiful mural where the kids get their water, and they're able to see these on a daily basis and kind of be reminded of these collective goals that we have for ourselves. And we've seen this specific community develop unbelievably. And on the right is the leaders from these communities a few years later. And this small rural community in the Cusco region of Peru has been recognized on a local level, a regional level, and a national level. And so whether or not that's because of their alignment with the SDGs is hard to say for sure, but I think that had a large part to do with the recognition that they've received, the directions that they've taken, and kind of their ability to communicate as a small rural community, the great work that they've been doing and how much they've developed. So for this specific community, the results have been unbelievable. And I think similar things can happen with our organizations when you align with those goals and communicate your impact in that terminology. People are really attracted to that, and especially funders as well. So on this page are just the different links and resources that I use to put the presentation together, talk about some of these areas. The third one, Nations United, is a really interesting, like high quality short film that they produced with a handful of high profile individuals. It's very interesting. If you have 30 minutes, I'd encourage you to take a look at it. And then number 4 and 5 are 2 more research-based documents, sources of information that are a little bit more dense, but that have really good content on why these are important, and some of the benefits that we've already seen play out since they were established in 2015. So I hope this kind of helped you guys spark some ideas on why these are important. If you're already doing this with your organization, maybe you can think about some of the benefits that it's provided, and if not, it's an opportunity to kind of start doing that. And maybe it's not for everyone to publicly align with one or more of these goals, but just being aware of where we are as a global community, I think is very valuable in the sphere. So if there's any questions, like I said, I'm no expert, but I could do my best to answer them. Or if you have any questions specifically about what we're trying to do within the AGDN, please let us know, and I can share this slide deck with you all after the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Danny. Would you mind stop sharing the screen so that we can see everyone? Go. Thank you. That was awesome. I just wanted to add my quick 2 cents in as to why the SDGs, why now? They've been around for a while, so why is it important that we dive into them now? We have less than 10 years left on the commitment to the SDGs. And I don't know about you, but when I read that, it really kind of hit me in the chest. I was like, wow, there's a lot of work to do in 10 years to make some progress on these. And unfortunately, a lot of the progress that had been made has been lost during the pandemic. So I think that's even more of a stark reason to bring these forth, bring these into the light, and call attention to them. And I don't know, part of me thinks that maybe they could be used in some sort of development role, as to saying, like, there's an urgency around this, and maybe build some buzz around that. We have some development experts here, so if you have thoughts about that, please share. But I just thought that, personally here at Esperanza, we haven't done a whole lot with the SDGs before the last couple months. And even what we've done since then has just been like little blurbs here and there, like on our blog and things like that. Nothing like structural or anything like that. But even those small changes and that lens of seeing things through the SDGs have brought us some really good things. We've gotten some awesome opportunities. We've been, as a staff, we were selected to receive pro bono services from the International Coaching Federation. So we got access to professional development coaches, and that helps our staff, which helps our organization as a whole. I would have never thought about that as a bonus, a resource. So it's like, what else can we get if we keep talking about our work in this way? So the challenge to come up with these presentations and have every organization present their organization's work under the lens of one of the SDGs, I think it's just a thought exercise of how can we align with them. And it, like I said, it doesn't have to be like a whole shift where you completely convert your marketing or anything like that. Even just being aware of that might be helpful. Thoughts, comments?
Yeah, no, one thing I'll speak for 33 buckets. I think one thing like having those kind of larger goals, broader long-term goals has done for us is kind of helped us to, I guess, like I think have a mix of focusing on our immediate work, which is important, working with communities and delivering water projects, but also kind of looking forward at how can we, through our work, really make a contribution to our field. I think like something sort of thinking about some of, like in the tech field, you have these projects, they're called moonshots, where it's like you're launching something that maybe is, you're not sure if it'll succeed, or it might be kind of a low chance, but you're kind of looking to kind of try out a lot of different ideas that are really innovative and really have high potential. Like one thing that we're working on, one thing that we've worked on over the last few years for our communities is we've noticed that a lot of them struggle with chlorination, with chlorine disinfection of their water. So we've been looking at, how could we develop, say an automated chlorination system, basically that makes it's something that could benefit communities all over the world that use chlorine. And it's something that, it's a little longer term project, but I think having that long-term mindset, I think has, that's been a benefit in helping us to think about kind of pursuing that kind of R&D work where it might not, immediately boost numbers immediately, or, it's a little bit longer term, but it's something that has a lot of potential, really, if, say, to scale down the road. So I think for us, like, I think that's one benefit of having these kind of broader goals is it's something to focus on, where you can kind of have, a mix of the, really good work that we're all doing in our, current programs, but also to think forward to kind of have that mix of short and long-term work. I
agree with you, Anna, and Paul, like you said too. I mean, I think they're great roadmaps to kind of keep us in check. I mean, I guess, I don't think have really honed in on them, but when you take a look at them, they're great roadmaps to say, am I headed in the right direction? Am I getting distracted, from what one of the key ideals is?
Yeah, and I think it's important too, like this isn't like you said, it's a roadmap, not an instruction or a recipe for what you need to do as an organization. So I think it's kind of a cool opportunity also to like challenge it in a way and say, maybe we thought about this a little bit the wrong way, and this is what our organization's doing to distinguish ourselves. So I think it has like, just being aware of them and communicating how your organization fits in. I know as a stakeholder in my own organization and looking at other organizations, if they're able to communicate something like that, it shows that they've really thought about things and thought about the future that they want to help create. So yeah, I agree with that.
I know in Hope for Our Kids, we originally, when we first started drilling wells, we had a plan to provide clean water, but we didn't really, these goals have helped us kind of hone in the direction we take. So for example, we would just kind of find a community and find a donor and match them together to provide the water. Now we're looking holistically at the communities where our kids live. And so not only are we trying to provide a clean water source at their school, but now we're looking at where are the clusters of kids, where can we provide clean water at their it kind of extends out of that initial, and it follows along with the goals to try to provide clean water for, I think our goals are we don't drill within 3 kilometers of another well, so we can kind of spread it out. But the UN goals are even more dense than that. And so our water program has done the research and kind of is trying to address all of those needs. But I do know during the pandemic, something else has come up because our teachers, we already know those kids are coming from really impoverished situations, but our teachers are going out to their homes now. And even our staff in Uganda was surprised at the number of kids in the village that don't have educated to the next level of how do we address those issues to continue building upon what we've already built to provide the education, to provide the to bring the community along on best practices in health and water and hygiene. And so so it really does help you focus, because as you look down the list of ways to bring people out of poverty, it's again like some of us are providing education, some of us are or working with the community to provide education. So yeah, it's definitely a good roadmap.
I think you make a really good point, Kelly. And if anything, it's helped us at Esperanza Academy realize that the interconnectedness between the SDGs and how if you help in one, it can affect the others. And that's really kind of opened our minds with the work that we're doing. It's like, well, maybe if we do get into workforce development, that could just open up a whole bunch of other areas in terms of economic mobility, social mobility, making sure that families are sustained and safe, and sometimes food and water are good and necessary, but it's not enough to truly break that cycle of poverty, right? It's like, how do we go to the next level now? And looking and studying these SDGs has really helped me see how interconnected they are. And if we help in one, and it just kind of trickles and like a domino effect, right?
Yeah, and I think that's where that last goal about partnerships is so key too, because there's no organization that can do everything, because talking about cycles of poverty, they're problems, they're so complex and multifaceted. It's like you really need partnerships and organizations working together who have different areas of expertise.
That's one of the reasons we're here.
Yep, exactly. Yeah.
We can be that for each other, right? To share ideas, like Clint was saying, and just see how other people are doing it, and how, especially during these difficult times, like it's hard to expect people to have the right answer all the time. So I think collaboratively we've figured out how to keep chugging along. So yeah. Any other comments, questions? So we do have the full intention to relaunch the SDG Series, as Danny mentioned. So keep your eyes open in your email. We will be reaching out to different organizations each month to present on 1 or 2 given SDGs. You've seen us send emails out from our new Gmail account. So that's going to be our main mode of communication now. So if you haven't received that email, just check your junk, your spam. It might be in there, and we can try to figure that out offline. But yeah, those are the only announcements we have. We will relaunch the Lunch and Learn events as well once a month. that will also start in October. So we will be sending all those updates via email. And then that's all for me, unless anyone else has questions, comments, anything else to add.
No, just thank you, Anna, for organizing and keeping us all
Thank you.
together. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank y'all for showing up.
Thank you.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye. Have a good weekend.
Yeah.